Hello, my dears, and welcome back to Turkish series Stars, the place where we slow down every heartbeat, rewind every glance, and read the lips of destiny. Today we're pulling at a delicate thread that so many of you have been whispering about late at night, the coded signals, stolen looks, and quiet electricity between Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. You know that feeling when two people are standing in a crowded room and yet, somehow, they form a world of their own? When a smile lingers a second too long, when a word lands as if it carries a secret? If that kind of mystery thrills you, settle in, because we're about to sink into it. And before we dim the lights and press play on this emotional detective work, make sure you're subscribed and your notifications are on, because you don't want to miss the chapters we have coming. Your presence here is the reason Turkish series Stars keeps the conversation alive. Our focus tonight is an irresistible headline come to life, Barış and Elçin, hidden messages and a secret romance that might be flickering just beyond the edge of the spotlight. We'll trace the breadcrumbs, the coincidences that seem too curated to dismiss, and the small, almost shy details that whisper of something more. Whether you fell in love with them through a show that owned your heart or you've watched them navigate interviews, events, and public appearances, you know there's always a layer beneath the dialogue. That's exactly where we're going, underneath, between, and just slightly to the side of everything said out loud. So let's paint the first scene. Imagine them on set, lights warm, cameras patient, a story unfolding where every turn brings them closer. Long before words reveal what hearts already know, the eyes speak. Watch the way Barış lets a glance rest on Elçin, then looks away with a soft smile, as if he's tucking a thought back into his pocket. Notice how Elçin meets his gaze without flinching, holding it just a moment longer than the script demands, then returning to the moment like nothing happened. These are not grand fireworks. They're candle flames that refuse to be blown out. And then there's the language of touch, the quiet choreography of two people who orbit each other even in a crowd. It's not the showy hug for cameras or the staged embrace for a scene. It's her hand finding his sleeve when they step aside to answer a question. It's his palm on the small of her back while guiding her through a corridor of crew members. It's the careful gesture of brushing a stray strand of hair away from her face, the playful correction of a lapel, the quick instinct to steady the other when someone missteps. Reflexes don't lie. When care shows up faster than thought, there's a story already written under the skin. Words, of course, are the tricksters. In public, they remain perfectly harmless. But listen closely to tone, to what's tucked between commas. When Barış compliments Elçin's discipline, he does it with a warmth that feels like gratitude, as though he's seen how that strength holds a long day together. When Elçin praises his patience, it sounds less like an abstract quality and more like an intimacy, patience with her late arrivals to shared jokes, patience with her perfectionism, patience with the kind of chemistry that complicates every goodbye. They protect themselves with jokes, with coy detours, with sparkling deflections. But teasing can be a curtain, and behind curtains, emotions rehearse the truth. Another layer to this picture is the chorus of people around them. Those who stand nearest often sense the temperature first. You'll catch a stylist giving a knowing smile when the two drift into their own bubble mid-rehearsal. A co-star might tease Barış, asking why his answers get a little tangled when Elçin interrupts with a laugh. A crew member, arms crossed, watches them cross a hallway and murmurs, "There it is again." The room always tells on a connection, even when the people inside it are trying their best to keep things simple. And when the camera cuts, what remains is the way they remain aware of each other, even while pretending not to be. Then come the coincidences that pile up, delicate as feathers until they weigh something real. They hide from a sudden storm, ducking into the same side street cafe because instinct sends them in identical directions. A work trip puts them on the same flight, and we happen to see them wandering the airport within minutes of each other, heads down, feet moving in the same rhythm. A late afternoon rehearsal runs long, and it's the two of them sharing one umbrella in the drizzle between trailers, pretending it's just practical to conserve dryness while the rest of us hear the music playing in the background. Fate loves to look like bad timing, but we're not fooled. Vulnerability is where the truth breathes. When a person trusts you with the soft parts of their story, the ones a spotlight can bruise, a bridge appears. We've seen Elçin speak about her own fears with a clarity that disarms, and the way Barış listens is not passive. It's a gentle watchfulness, as if he's guarding every word until the moment passes. We've watched Barış admit to the weight of expectation that sometimes follows success, and Elçin's response is never generic comfort. She offers perspective, humor, and that precise language only someone who has taken notes on your soul can give. These are the exchanges that don't shout, they hum. And the note lingers. And what about the tiny details, the ones that can't be staged because they demand memory? It's the way he orders her coffee before she asks, because he remembers the exact roast she prefers and how she changes the sweetness when she's nervous. It's her noticing a nick on his knuckle and asking about it later, after the cameras have gone quiet, because she remembers it wasn't there the day before. He laughs at a reference she makes from months ago, a sliver of a joke only they seem to hold, and she glances down to hide the smile that gives everything away. These are not grand gestures. They are the thread that stitches a private world together. Now, if there is something growing between them, why keep it in the shadows? The reasons bloom like questions. Perhaps it's the pressure of public expectation, or the delicate politics of timing at work, or the presence of other people's hopes that must be respected. Maybe they fear turning magic into currency, or losing a treasured partnership to the chaos of speculation. The hush isn't always about deceit. Sometimes it's about protecting the thing you're not ready to name. And sometimes that very secrecy acts like a charm, pulling two people closer as they build a small, bright room between them where only they are allowed. Inside this version of events, conflict is inevitable. Maybe schedules stretch them thin. Maybe a demanding project requires focus that leaves little oxygen for confession. Maybe family voices and friendly warnings tell them to be careful, to keep what's fragile from becoming another headline tossed to the wind. Or perhaps it's simply their own caution that keeps them poised on a ledge, admiring the view without daring to jump. Desire loves a locked door, mystery is its favorite key. And for those of us watching, it's intoxicating because it feels like truth daring to be told. For fans who have followed Barış and Elçin from their earliest scenes to their most recent appearances, reading the signs becomes a treasure hunt. You start to recognize that look he gets when she makes him laugh too hard. You notice that she relaxes when he enters a room, like a dancer finding balance. You remember the day they shared a story about a late-night rehearsal that spiraled into hysterics, and the way both of them told it suggested that the memory mattered less for its comedy and more for the company they kept while laughing. Instinct isn't always correct, but it rarely invents warmth where none exists. And let's talk about dialogue, the words that slip out around the edges. When Elçin says, "Only you would understand this," it sounds like a doorway opening. When Barış murmurs, "I didn't realize that about you," it feels like someone has been paying attention longer than we knew. Compliments can be camouflage, but they also serve as confessions that won't risk the fallout of a label. They speak of professionalism and respect, yes, but there's an accent on the syllables that belong to something softer, something private. Consider how time behaves around them. Minutes stretch when they stand too close. An interview that should take 5 becomes 15 because every answer becomes a duet. They take turns guiding and yielding, each instinctively making space for the other's point. They are fluent in each other's timing, a mastery that is learned, not assigned. Whether rehearsing a romantic scene or discussing a mundane schedule change, their rhythm is intact. People who share rhythm don't stumble so much as sway. Now imagine a moment of crisis on set, nothing dramatic, just a hiccup that could derail a day. One of them falters for a second, and before a director calls cut, the other is there. The fix is practical, yes, but the instinct is protective. Their eyes meet, gratitude arcs across the distance, and then everything returns to normal. But you saw it, didn't you? The promise lodged under the efficiency, the whispered "we've got this" that doesn't need to be spoken. You can rehearse many things. Devotion is not one of them. Of course, nothing fuels a story like proximity, and fate keeps writing them into the same frame. They drift into the same after-party corner, drawn by an unspoken accord. They leave a panel and walk in step without noticing until the cameras find them. They turn up wearing colors that accidentally complement each other, as if a subtle palette had been agreed upon through telepathy. It sounds silly until you realize how often it keeps happening. Coincidences, when repeated, take on the shape of intention. When they've shared their more vulnerable interviews, the world takes notice. Someone asks a tender question and Elçin answers with honesty that lands like a soft bell, and for a heartbeat the camera catches Barış looking at her not as a colleague, but as if the person he's listening to could change the temperature of a room just by speaking. Then he looks down, collects himself, and the moment evaporates. But our eyes are not that easily fooled. The lens can capture a secret even when it can't decode it. All the while, these two craft a careful dance around definitions. They are friends, professionals, co-conspirators in the art of making scenes feel like reality. Yet the air between them feels charged, as though music is always waiting for a cue. Perhaps they have made a pact to protect what they have by refusing to name it. Perhaps they fear that naming it will make it heavy. Or perhaps they are still discovering what it is, and discovery is sweetest without commentary. Why does this matter to us? Because we recognize the blossoming of something rare. We've all stood on that threshold where a look becomes a language. We lean in because their story reminds us of the brave and beautiful risk of letting someone in. And we cheer them on in whispers, because part of us believes that two people who anchor each other in the storm deserve whatever quiet miracle they can build together. So tonight, we've sifted through the signs. The glances that return like tides, the touches that pretend to be accidents, the compliments that hide in plain sight, the friends who smirk because they can't help it, the coincidences that multiply until we call them fate, the private confessions that turn into trust, the tiny details only noticed by someone who cares, and the reasons a secret might be necessary just long enough for something delicate to grow strong. Put together, these puzzle pieces sketch a picture that looks a lot like love practicing its lines behind the curtain. If you've watched Barış and Elçin as closely as we have, you know that even when the stage lights go dark, the story doesn't end. It lingers in the spaces between interviews and the long walk to a waiting car. It clings to the echo of a laugh and the echo of a touch. It follows them into the next project, the next red carpet, the next quiet afternoon where one message arrives on a phone and changes the day. And if we are wrong, if this is only friendship perfected, then what a beautiful friendship to witness. But our hearts, stubborn and hopeful, suspect there is more. Thank you for taking this journey with me tonight on Turkish series Stars. I want to hear what your instincts are shouting. Did you catch a moment I missed? Did a certain interview make you gasp because it felt too bare? Drop your thoughts below, tell me your theories, and let's keep unraveling the thread together. If this deep dive stirred your curiosity, give it a like and share it with the friend who always notices the same little things you do. And if you haven't yet, tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a chapter of this unfolding tale. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your heart tuned to the softest notes, and remember, some stories begin where the script ends, and sometimes the quietest signs say the most.